Welcome everyone. Have you ever wondered what is going on in your brain when you are chanting? It is actually pretty fascinating stuff. It's a mind-blowing how such a simple practice can have such a profound effect on our brain and bodies. So let's start with the basic. Chanting, whether it is religious mantra, secular phrases, or even just repetitive sounds, that has a part of our human culture for thousands of years. The people have long claimed that it helps them relax, focus, and even reach altered state of consciousness. But here is the cool part. Modern neuroscience is starting to back up this ancient claim with some solid evidence. When we chant, we are not just making noise, we are actually triggering a whole cascade of neurological and physiological responses. One of the most interesting things researchers have found is that chanting can actually change our brain waves. You know how our brain are actually buzzing with electrical activities? Well, that activity happens in different frequency, and these frequencies are associated with different state of consciousness. During normal every activities, our brain tend to operate in what called beta wave state. This is great for the getting stuff done, but is also associated with stress and anxiety. But when we start chanting, something amazing happens. Our brain waves start to slow down. We shift into alpha waves, which are associated with relaxation and meditation, and sometimes even into theta waves, which are linked to deep meditation insight. This shift in brain waves is not just interesting from a scientific perspective, it has real, tangible effects on how we feel and function. It's like hitting the reset button on our mental state. But that's just the beginning. Chanting also seems to have a profound effect on our automatic nervous system. You know how we all have a fight or flight response when we are stressed? Well, chanting appears to activate the opposite system, the rest and digest response. This leads to a whole host of physiological changes like lowering heart rate and blood pressure, slower breathing, and reduced level of stress hormone like cortisol. There is this fascinating study I came across where researchers looked at effect of chanting, which is Om, brain activity using functional MRI scans. They found that chanting Om actually deactivated certain areas of brain, particularly in limbic system, which is involved in the emotion and memory. This deactivation was similar to what we seen during the vagus nerve stimulation, that is a treatment used for depression and epilepsy. It's like chanting giving us a natural way to calm our emotional centers and potentially improve our mood. Chanting does not just affect our brain in isolation, it seems to create this beautiful synchronization between our brain activity or breathing and our heart rate as well. This synchronization is thought to be a key factor in why chanting can be so powerful for inducing relaxation and altered state of consciousness. Now, you might wonder if all types of the chanting have the same effect. The short answer is not exactly. Different types of chanting seems to activate different part of our brain. For example, a study has shown that chanting in the language you understand activates language area of the brain, while chanting in an unknown language or using meaningless syllables doesn't. But both types still show the overall calming effect on the brain and body. There is also some really cool research on the difference between silent chanting, like when you are repeating a mantra in your head, and vocal chanting. Both have a benefit, but they seem to work in slightly different way. Vocal chanting has this added element of vibration, which some researchers think might stimulate the vagus nerve, leading to even more relaxation and stress reduction benefit. One thing that's particularly interesting is how chanting affects our attention and focus. In our modern world, we are constantly bombarded with a distraction like a social media, and many of us struggle with maintaining focus. But chanting seems to be an excellent exercise for training our attention. When we chant, we are essentially practicing focused attention. We are repeatedly bringing our mind back to the chant whenever it wanders. This is very similar to what happened during the meditation, and it's thought to be a strength our overall ability to focus and resistance distraction. There is also some interesting research on how chanting might affect our perception of time. You know how time seems to fly when you are having fun, but drag when you are bored? Well, some studies suggest that chanting can alter our subjective experience of time, often making it feel like time is passing more slowly. This could be part of why chanting can be so revitalizing. It's like we are expanding our sense of time. Now let's talk about long-term effect of regular chanting practice. A study on the long-term chanter and meditator have found some pretty remarkable changes in their brain. For example, they tend to have more gray matter in area associated with attention, emotion regulation, and sensory processing. It's like chanting is giving their brain a workout, leading to actual physical changes over time. So there is also evidence that regular chanting can enhance our emotional regulation skill. This makes sense when we think about it. Chanting often involves maintaining a steady, calm state, even if your mind is racing or you are feeling stressed. Over time, this practice seems to strengthen our ability to stay calm and centered in everyday life. Now, aspect of chanting that I find particularly fascinating is its potential to induce what scientists call self-transcendent experiences. These are moments where we feel a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves, or dissolution of normal boundary of the self. So brain imaging studies have shown that during these experiences there are decreased activity in part of brain associated with our sense of self and increased activity in an area associated with feeling of unity and interconnectedness. But you don't have to be a monk or a lifelong practitioner to get benefit from chanting. Even short period of chanting can have measurable effect on our brain and body. Some studies have shown that change in brain activity and improvement in mood after just a few minutes of chanting. It's like quick tune-up for your brain and nervous system. One area where chanting shows a lot of promise is in managing stress and anxiety. Given what we know about how chanting affects our brain waves and automatic nervous system, it's not surprising that it can be a powerful tool for stress reduction. Some studies have even found that the chanting can be as effective as some anti-anxiety medication, which is for reducing symptom anxiety disorders. There is also growing interest in using chanting as a complementary therapy for various health conditions. For example, some researchers suggest that the chanting could be beneficial for people with high blood pressure, chronic pain, and even certain neurological disorders. The thinking is that by inducing a state of relaxation and potentially stimulating the vagus nerve, chanting might help to reduce inflammation and promote healing in the body. Now you might be wondering how all these relate to more familiar form of sound therapy, like listening to music. Music can have powerful effects on our brain and mood. Chanting seems to be unique in a few ways. For one, it can involve active participation rather than passive listening. This engagement of our vocal cord, breath, and attention seem to create a more profound effect than just listening to sound. And also repetitive nature of chanting appear to be a key to effects. This repetition helps to create a rhythmic, predictable pattern that our brain can synchronize with, leading to those shifts in the brain waves and a state of consciousness. It's like you are using the chant as a tool to guide our brain into a particular state. One thing that really cool about the chanting is how it combines multiple elements that we know are beneficial for the brain health. It involves the focus attention like meditation, control breathing like in yoga or breath work practice, and often rhythmic movement if you are using beats while chanting. It's like a multi-faced brain training exercise all wrapped up in a one practice. There is also an interesting social aspect of chanting that should not be overlooked. While many people practice chanting alone, group chanting has been a part of human culture for millennia. Some researchers think that the group chanting might have additional benefit due to the sense of connection, synchronization it creates between people. There is even some preliminary research suggesting that when people chant together, their heart rates and the brain waves can synchronize, creating a kind of collective altered state. Now I know some people might be skeptical about chanting, especially if you are not religious or spiritual, but here is the thing. You don't need to be in any particular spiritual system to benefit from the chanting. The neurological and physiological effects happen regardless of your belief. It's more about the act itself than any particular meaning attached to it. That said, for people who do approach chanting from a spiritual perspective, there is an interesting interplay between the neurological effect and the spiritual experience. Some researchers have suggested that altered state of induced by chanting might be part of what underlying spiritual and mythical experiences. It's like chanting creates a neurological state that's more conducive to these types of experiences. One area of chanting research that I find particularly exciting is its potential application in education and cognitive enhancement. Some studies have suggested that certain types of chanting might improve memory and cognitive function. There has even been some research on using chanting as a tool to help children with attention deficit disorder improve their focus. It is also worth noting that different types of chanting might have slightly different effect. For example, some research suggests that chanting with longer phrase might be more effective for inducing relaxation, while shorter, more rhythmic chant might be better for increased focus and attention. There is still a lot to learn in this area, but it's exciting to think about how we might be able to tailor chanting practice for a specific cognitive or emotional benefits. With advance in brain imaging technology and our growing understanding of neuroplasticity, we are in a better position than ever to really understand what's happening in our brain when we chant. One area that I think is particularly ripe for the exploration is the potential use of chanting in treating or managing neurological disorder. Given what we know about how chanting affects brain activity, it's not hard to imagine that it could be useful tools in conditions like epilepsy, Parkinson's disease, or even a stroke recovery. There is also growing interest in how chanting might be used as a tool for cognitive enhancement in the healthy individual. Could regular chanting practice help to stave off age-related cognitive decline? Could it boost creativity or problem-solving skill? These are questions that researchers are starting to explore. So the neuroscience of chanting is a fascinating field that is really just beginning to scratch the surface of understanding this ancient practice. From its effect on our brain waves and nervous system to its potential application in health, education, and cognitive enhancement, chanting is proving to be a powerful tools for influencing our brain and body. What I found most exciting about all of these research is how it bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science. Practices that have been used for thousands of years are now being validated and explained by our most cutting-edge neuroscientific tools. It's a beautiful example of how different ways of knowing can come together to deepen our understanding of human experience. So I hope you learned something that is useful for your mental health and overall well-being. So thank you for the watching and see you in the next video.